Hey guys, this is Mr. Gaspard. For my last post, I wanted to give you guys some tips for the AP exam and getting you ready for it for next Wednesday. First, looking at the actual prompt that you get, and many of you might get different prompts. We're seeing some of that for the other AP test. But when you get it, you want to start with looking at the actual prompt. What is it asking you to do? Read it very closely. Annotate it if you can print it out or just on a computer. But remember, we always look for rhetorical context, okay? And if you don't know, rhetorical context is in everything. Every message that we give has that, okay? So just to kind of review, if you look at this video, you have the speaker, that's myself, Mr. Gaspard. You have the occasion, which is very important, and you'll see that in the prompt. For us, the context and exigence is part of the occasion. And for the context, obviously, it's this unprecedented pandemic that we're seeing. We haven't seen the likes of for 100 years. And this is the first time AP has ever given an exam at home. A lot of us are stressed and are not doing well, and maybe are very worried. So that is taken into factor with this. The exigence for this video would be me wanting to sort of inspire you and for you to do well on the exam. Your target audience, really look at that in the prompt. And for me, my target audience is you, right? My students who I want to be successful. And I know, again, a lot of you might be worried about the exam. What's it going to be like? How hard will it be? So I'm going to take that into factor whenever I'm giving my message. Next, we have the purpose. And what is it that I'm trying to, what goal do I want to achieve in this speech? And for me, it's to give you sort of inspiration and to hope that you do as best as you can on it, okay? I don't expect everyone to make a perfect score, and that's unrealistic. But I want you to say, this is the best I can do. I did what I could, and I'm proud of that, okay? Then you have the subject, which is the main idea, and then you want to also consider the tone. What's the attitude towards the whole thing? And for me, my tone would be, again, inspirational, hopeful, just that you can do what you can and be successful on it. You also want to consider the rhetorical triangle, which is part of that, okay? Remember, how does the speaker and the audience factor into the message that's being received, okay? Since I know you guys well, all throughout the year, I've taught you, I'm going to take that into consideration in how I say, what tone am I going to use, what kind of language, and that goes into the strategies. And so that next part of the video, we're going to look at rhetorical strategies. All right, now let's look at rhetorical strategies. I know some of us have trouble when we're reading a passage and you say, what are the rhetorical strategies that I'm seeing here? Especially if we have sort of simplistic language and we're not considering the rhetorical situation. Some of you may say, I don't really see strategies popping out at me. But just to give you a couple of tips on those. So strategies, remember, are just verbs. They're things that the author does whenever they're writing. So when you phrase them, you want to phrase them as verbs. You want to stay away from simplified strategies. You don't want to say things like the author uses pathos, the author uses logos, the author uses diction, because that's very simplistic. Remember, we're not Greek, so we're not going to use those terms. We want to be as specific as we can in it. Instead of the author uses pathos, maybe we want to say the author elicits strong feelings through the use of imagery. The author evokes a nostalgic feeling through his word choice in the passage. If we want to get into diction, we can, but we want to say, what type of word choice are we seeing? Is it patriotic diction? Is it a harmful diction? Whatever it may be. The main thing for strategies is to be as specific as you can, and with that, you'll be okay. Same thing for logos or ethos. The author uses ethos. We don't want to say that. We want to say, how does he or she establish their credibility? Maybe the author uses common ground or establishes common ground with the audience through their explanation of what's going on, okay? We've seen it a lot in commercials with people trying to sell us stuff. They're saying things like, we're all in this together. Say everyone is experiencing this pandemic. Everyone is affected by it. So keep that in mind. Okay, next we're going to look at chunking. So real quick, how do I chunk my passage into different parts? What do I do? What's the best strategy for that? And the main thing I say is you want to try to find 3 chunks or portions. If you can't, 2 is okay. You want to look for shifts in the text. Where does things shift as far as tone goes? Where it goes from a little more positive to more serious, lighthearted to more serious, or whatever it may be, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. Also look for transition words. Those are always going to be keys, right? Especially things that show contrast. But yet, however, if you see that, you see a shift occurring. You see the author going from one sort of idea to the next. And that's a good place to sort of shift it and change it and say, hey, maybe I'll talk about this strategy next in my essay. All right, and finally, we're going to talk about test review. Just overview of things for the exam. Okay, guys, lastly, we're looking at test review. Just some simple things. Obviously, the test is on Wednesday, May 20th. I know that you guys are taking the U.S. history one today, so good luck. It's going to be at 2 o'clock. It's going to start. So remember, I would advise you guys to log on at 1:30. Make sure you have your test code with you, everything ready, internet's working, just to avoid being rushed in that sense. Try to get to a good quiet place where you can focus and do your best on the exam. Remember, you can write it if you would like in pen, blue or black ink, and then take a picture and upload it. Or you can just type it. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever your preference is, that's the way I would go. Since you're going to be experiencing, for the most part, majority of you, an AP test already with the U.S. history, then you can kind of say, I think I like the way it worked there, or maybe I should shift it and change it for this go around. So after you've annotated and you're getting started writing your essay, just remember, think about the rubric first. So in that introduction, the main thing is that thesis statement. Is it clear? Is it stated somewhere in your introduction, what the purpose of the passage was, and what are some strategies that the author used? You can have an open thesis to say that he used a variety of good strategies, or you can have a closed thesis. I don't think it really matters. Just make sure your thesis is as clear as possible, because they're going to be reading these. And also, a little tidbit, I should be able to get access to your essays as well, so I can read them as well after you're done. So once you have your clear introduction done, get to the body paragraphs, okay? You don't necessarily have to have 3 body paragraphs, but you want to shoot for it. If you just have 2, that's fine. You want to think about what the rubric looks for in that body paragraph, and they want a couple of things. First, your clear strategy. What rhetorical strategy are you addressing here? What's some clear evidence that you have to back it up? And then lastly, your commentary. And commentary may be the most important. For commentary, just remember to tell the reader, this is a strategy they used, and this is the evidence of it, and how the evidence supports their purpose, their overall goal. Remember, that's what the strategies are about. This is how they sort of convey their message. So if I pick a piece of evidence, I want to state clearly and say this shows the strategy that supported their overall goal and their purpose of the passage itself, okay? So keep that in mind. Another thing for commentaries that you want to say, how did sort of that piece of evidence affect the sort of audience as they read it, as they listened to it, if it's a speech or whatever it may be. So that's it for me. I just want to wish you guys the best of luck. I really miss you, and I hope you do great on the exam on Wednesday. And if you're taking the U.S. history one, you do really great today as well. So thank you guys, and good luck.